Let me just preface this by saying, I didn't expect my marriage to unravel over a cup of Starbucks. But looking back, that Veni Caramel Macchiato was just the first red flag in a parade of them I ignored for way too long. So yeah, I'm a 34-year-old software engineer, working remotely, pretty chill guy. I met my wife, let's call her Lena, at a mutual friend's birthday party about 6 years ago. She was witty, ambitious, sharp-dressed, the kind of woman who made you feel like you were the only person in the room when she looked at you. Classic love story, right? We dated for a year, moved in together, married the next. The first 2 years were solid. She said she worked in marketing at a mid-sized firm, lots of client calls and campaign deadlines. I never doubted it. We had our routines. She left early. I stayed home with my coffee and code. Now, here's where things started to itch at the back of my brain. Every morning, she said she had to stop by Starbucks before work. I can't deal with Karen from HR unless I've got my iced brown sugar oat milk shaken espresso, she used to say. I didn't think much of it until she started being really weird about her receipts. Like tucking them deep into her purse or crumpling them before tossing them into the outside bin. Once, she even took the bag from my hands and said, "Oh, I'll throw this away myself." Weird, right? But I chalked it up to Lena just being particular. Everyone's got their quirks. Fast forward a few months. One day I had to drive her to work because her car was in the shop. I offered to drop her at her office building downtown, and she panicked. Said her company had just gone remote indefinitely, and she was working out of co-working spaces now. Again, I wanted to trust her. So I did. I dropped her at this random WeWork on 5th and didn't ask questions. But something about it stuck in my head. That tightness in her voice. The way she said, "You don't have to come up, babe. It's all just boring cubicles anyway." And the Starbucks thing? She didn't even ask me to stop. Just said she'd grab one nearby. So I did something I never thought I'd do in a healthy marriage. I followed her the next day. So yeah, I waited until the next day. Told her I had back-to-back Zoom meetings and wouldn't leave my desk. She kissed me goodbye like always, wearing her usual blazer, hair tied up, looking like the definition of a busy professional woman on the go. But this time, I left 5 minutes after she did. I stayed a few cars behind. Felt like a total creep. My heart was pounding harder than it should have. I kept telling myself I was being ridiculous, that I'd follow her, see her grab her coffee, walk into the co-working space, and that would be that. I'd go home feeling stupid and paranoid. Except, she didn't go to Starbucks. She parked in a residential neighborhood about 15 minutes from our place, in front of a duplex I'd never seen before. I parked a few houses down and watched as she took off her blazer, shoved it in the back seat, and walked up to the front door in just a tank top and leggings. Casual. Too casual for a workday. Then she rang the bell. A guy answered. Mid-30s, beard, wearing joggers and no shirt. He looked like he just woke up. She kissed him. On the mouth. I swear to God. I sat in my car feeling like someone had punched a hole in my chest. I couldn't move. Couldn't think. I felt cold, and then hot, and then nothing at all. She stepped inside like she owned the place. And there I was, in my beat-up Subaru, watching my wife walk into another man's house like it was her regular Monday morning Starbucks. Except this time, she wasn't picking up a latte. She was picking up a second life. I sat in my car for over an hour. Engine off. Just stuck. I must have refreshed her location 10 times. Yeah, we shared locations. She insisted on it years ago, said it made her feel safe. The irony. Her stayed inside that house. I zoomed in on the map like an idiot, as if the satellite view would tell me what room they were in. Eventually, she texted me. Morning meetings are killer today, dizzy face, need caffeine soon lol. Caffeine. She was inside another man's house, probably still tasting his lips, and she was texting me about coffee like she was at her desk dealing with spreadsheets. So I drove home. Still didn't know what the hell I was going to do. But I started looking. Searching. It's funny how once your brain allows itself to consider betrayal, everything unravels. It's like breaking the seal. I dug through our kitchen trash like a raccoon. And there it was. Not one Starbucks receipt. 3. All from the same week. And all for 2 drinks. One was her go-to sugary nonsense. The other? Black coffee. Veni. No milk. No sugar. Not hers. The receipts weren't from any of the Starbucks near the WeWork she supposedly worked at, either. These were from a location near his neighborhood. I even checked the timestamp. 7:43 a.m. Every time. Like clockwork. For the past few months, my wife had been waking up next to me, saying she was headed to work, grabbing coffee with him. And then, what? Spending the whole day at his place while I sat at home, defending her against friends who said she seemed distant lately. I didn't confront her that night. Couldn't. I was still trying to understand if this was real life or some humiliating simulation. I acted normal, watched TV with her, even laughed at something dumb on Netflix. But I didn't sleep. Not even a minute. And the next day, I followed her again. This time, I was prepared. I left earlier than her and parked near that same Starbucks she kept getting receipts from. I grabbed a black coffee for myself, like the kind I saw on the receipts, and sat in my car with sunglasses on, pretending to scroll my phone. Sure enough, 7:41 a.m., her car pulled in. But she wasn't alone. He was in the passenger seat. They both got out, laughing like teenagers. She was wearing that same tank top from the other day, like she hadn't even gone home and changed. Her hair was still a little damp, like she'd just showered. Probably at his place. They went inside together. She clung to his arm. They looked like a couple. A real one. Comfortable. Easy. Like this was just their life. They came out 5 minutes later with 2 drinks. Just like the receipts. She handed him the black coffee. No milk. No sugar. I wanted to hurl mine out the window. She leaned in and kissed his cheek before they got back in her car. Like it was just another part of their morning routine. I followed them back to the same house. Except this time, she didn't stay. He got out and waved, and she drove off like she was late for something. She pulled into a public library about 20 minutes later, grabbed her laptop bag, and walked inside. I sat there for an hour, watching her through the window. She wasn't working. She wasn't in any meeting. She was watching YouTube videos with headphones on and doodling in a notebook. This whole marketing career thing? Fake. All of it. The clients, the deadlines, the pressure? Bullshit. I was married to someone who didn't just lie. She built her life on it. A fake job. A fake routine. A real affair. That night, I asked her how work went. She told me she had 3 back-to-back Zoom calls and barely had time to pee. Said she spilled coffee on her keyboard. Even faked a yawn. I just nodded. I felt like I was married to a hologram. After that library day, I couldn't sit still. I was swinging between 2 extremes. Rage that made my teeth clench and this hollow numbness that made everything feel far away. I kept thinking, what else is fake? What part of our life is real? I needed proof. Not just for me. For whatever was left of my self-respect. So while she was showering the next morning, I opened her laptop. I expected resistance. Passwords, firewalls, a lockdown digital fortress. But nope. Same password she's used since college. Her cat's name and her birth year. She wanted to get caught. That's what I started to think. Or maybe she thought I was too dumb or too trusting to check. I opened her Gmail first. The one she always used for work. I figured there'd be messages about campaigns, clients, co-workers, something to support the lie. There were 0 emails in the last 60 days. None. Inbox clean. Sent folder? Empty. Then I noticed the account wasn't even paid for the last 3 months. The business tools she said she used, Slack, Trello, Adobe Suite, all deactivated or never subscribed to in the first place. But there was another account. A personal Gmail with a weird username I didn't recognize. I almost skipped it, thinking it was spam. But I clicked. Hundreds of emails. Receipts from Airbnb. Hotel bookings under a fake last name. Photo attachments from someone named M that I quickly realized was him. Shirtless selfies, mirror pics, gross pet names like your latte daddy. I'll spare you the rest. You already know what kind of stuff I found. There was one email thread I opened and had to physically stand up and walk away from. She told him I was asexual and emotionally distant. Said I was more obsessed with my code than her body. That I gave her permission to explore something physical outside the marriage. None of that was true. I mean, sure, I get wrapped up in my work sometimes. But asexual? Permission? That was character assassination with whipped cream on top. I sat on the edge of our bed for 30 minutes after that. She came out of the shower, towel on, humming like nothing was wrong. I couldn't even look at her. And still, I didn't say a word. That night, I lay next to her in bed pretending to sleep while her phone buzzed twice on the nightstand. I didn't check it. I didn't have to. I knew who it was. She shifted, checked the screen, smiled. I watched her face light up in the dark. Not for me. Not for us. That smile wasn't mine anymore. Maybe it never had been. I stared at the ceiling and thought about the last 5 years. The birthdays I planned. The surprise trip to Seattle because she said she always wanted to visit the first Starbucks. Yeah, I know. Sick irony. The time I picked her up from a late client dinner, while she fake yawned and smelled like unfamiliar cologne. Every moment replayed in my head with new context. It was like someone had redubbed my life with a new script, and I was just now hearing the real lines. And yet, I still didn't blow it all up. Why? Because I wanted a plan. A clean exit. I wasn't going to let her gaslight me or twist the narrative. I wanted the truth in my pocket when I walked away. So I started documenting everything. Screenshots of emails, photos of receipts, location timestamps. I even installed a tiny tracking app on her phone, not to be creepy, but to cover myself. I needed to know the pattern. She'd go to him in the mornings, library or Target midday to kill time, back home around 4:30 to make it look like she had office hours. I bought a cheap burner phone and emailed everything to it. I backed it up on a USB I hid in the ceiling vent in my home office. I was methodical, cold. It honestly scared me how calm I'd become. But you know what broke me? One afternoon, I came home early, said a server went down, and I needed to plug into the home network. She was on the couch, pretending to be in a Zoom meeting. Headphones in, nodding like she was listening to a team presentation. The laptop screen? Off. Just black. She didn't even try anymore. That was the day I realized. She wasn't just lying to me. She thought I was too stupid to ever notice. After the fake Zoom call incident, something snapped inside me. I wasn't just hurt anymore. I was insulted. I didn't deserve this. I may not be flashy or dramatic, but I'd been loyal, present, all in. And she was out here giving Oscar-worthy performances to 2 different audiences like it was her full-time job. So I decided I'd give her a performance of my own. I told her I'd be flying to Chicago for a client meeting the following Friday, an overnight trip. I made sure to sigh about how boring it'd be and how I'd rather stay home and Netflix with her. She gave me a pouty face and said she'd miss me. I almost laughed. I booked a refundable hotel room in Chicago just to have the receipts, emailed myself a flight confirmation I never intended to use, and even packed a damn suitcase. The night before the trip, she helped me fold shirts into it like everything was normal. She kissed me and said, "Call me before bed, okay?" I said, "Of course." Except the next morning, I didn't go to O'Hare. I parked 2 blocks away from her boyfriend's house at 6 a.m. and waited. 7:13 a.m. She drove up, alone. 7:15 a.m. He walked out shirtless again. Guy owns shirts. I've seen them on Instagram. 7:16 a.m. They kissed like this was the best part of their day. She stayed with him until almost 2 p.m. I watched her walk out in different clothes than she arrived in. She actually changed at his house, like she was living a double life down to the damn wardrobe. And me? I was sitting in the car eating a gas station sandwich and realizing I'd married a stranger. When she got home later that afternoon, I was in Chicago, texting her fake updates from a Google image of a conference room. She told me she was having a lazy day, probably curled up with wine and a face mask. What she didn't know? I was already back in our house, and I had her laptop, her tablet, and the burner phone full of receipts waiting in my office. The trap was set. I waited until Sunday night. I figured if I was going to burn my life down, might as well do it with clean laundry, a full night's sleep, and 0 loose ends. She was on the couch, scrolling TikTok with a glass of wine, laughing at something that probably wasn't even funny. I stood there for a few seconds, just watching her. Then I asked, "Hey, how was your weekend?" She didn't look up. "Boring. Missed you." "Yeah? Didn't do anything fun?" She shrugged. "Just errands, laundry. You know." I sat down across from her and pulled out her laptop. She blinked like she didn't understand what was happening. "I need you to be honest with me," I said. "Calm. Direct." She tilted her head. "About what?" I opened the folder labeled Starbucks Lies. Clicked the first email from Latte Daddy. Opened the hotel receipts. Pulled up her GPS logs. Hit play on a screen recording of her email account, complete with photos, messages, and the fake calendar invites she'd made to keep her alibi straight. She stared at the screen, silent. Didn't cry. Didn't yell. Didn't deny. She just said, "How long have you known?" I don't know what I expected. Maybe tears. Anger. Some kind of regret. What I got was nothing. Just flatness. Indifference. Like a waitress caught stealing tips who just shrugs and walks out. "All of it," I said. "The fake job. The boyfriend. The lies. Every F asterisk 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 ing Starbucks receipt. She took a sip of wine and said, I was unhappy. I swear, in that moment, I felt something detach inside me. Like I'd finally unplugged from a toxic battery that had been draining me for years. I stood up and told her I'd be staying at my brother's place. That a lawyer would be in touch. She didn't follow me. Didn't scream or beg. She just nodded. Like she'd known this day was coming. And honestly, so had I. The first night at my brother's place was brutal. He handed me a beer, and I told him everything. Every disgusting, ridiculous, humiliating detail. To his credit, he didn't interrupt. Just listened. When I was done, he said, Man, she's way worse than we thought. That hit me. I hadn't realized how many people had quietly suspected something was off. My brother said Lena always had this performative energy, like she was auditioning for Wife of the Year, but couldn't remember her lines. My mom cried when I told her. My dad just muttered, Jesus, and then didn't speak for a full minute. And my best friend Matt, who'd met Lena maybe a dozen times, said, Dude, I always thought she was too slick. Like she was running a PR campaign, not living a life. And that's when the anger came back. Because all this time, I thought I was the fool for being paranoid. For noticing the little things, like her avoidant eye contact, the fake Starbucks obsession, the lies wrapped in jokes. I'd gaslit myself into silence. But everyone else had seen it, too. They just didn't say anything because they trusted me to know what I was doing. And I had failed. But no more. I emailed the divorce lawyer that Monday morning. Meanwhile, Lena, she played it like a PR disaster. Sent me a long, emotionally manipulative email with lines like, I know I broke your trust, but I never stopped loving you. Can't we just go to therapy before making anything permanent? You were working so much, and I felt invisible. Not once did she apologize without blaming me in the same breath. Not once did she say, I'm sorry I created a second life behind your back. That's when it really settled in. This wasn't someone who made a mistake. This was someone who perfected a system of betrayal. One thing you need to understand about Lena, she was obsessed with image. Not just physical appearance, but perception. To her, every social media post, every party appearance, every compliment from someone at brunch, it all fed this curated version of herself. So when I left, she didn't crumble. She pivoted. Posted some soft Instagram stories the next day, coffee cup, rainy window, sad music playing. Caption, some things break even when they look perfect on the outside, broken heart hot beverage. Like she was the one who got blindsided. Like she wasn't screwing a guy in joggers while lying about being in a Zoom call. I didn't respond. Didn't comment. Didn't bite. But Matt, my best friend, the one who knew everything, sent me a screenshot a few days later. Her boyfriend, aka Latte Daddy, had commented on one of her old beach selfies. Glad I finally get to keep you all to myself now, face blowing a kiss. People started connecting dots. Two of her friends DM'd me, asking if we were on a break or working through something. I didn't give details, but I said plainly, she was cheating. I found out. I left. That was enough. Her image, this polished, wholesome, Starbucks-loving marketing professional with a dream marriage, started to crack. Quietly, people peeled away. A few unfollowed her. A couple mutual friends reached out and said, I always wondered why she talked about work like it was improv. One guy, someone she used to rant about from her supposed office, emailed me. Said there was no Lena in marketing at his firm. Never had been. She'd built the entire career out of thin air. She wasn't even freelancing. She wasn't even trying. She just woke up, lied, and went to this guy's house like it was her 9 to 5. You'd think that kind of public unraveling would humble her. Nope. She sent me another email. You've turned everyone against me. You're making me look like a villain. No, Lena, you did that all by yourself. By this time, I was a mess, but also kind of free. Like I'd been carrying this heavy weight for years, and now I was finally putting it down. The nights were quiet. Too quiet. No more fake Zoom calls. No more whispered phone conversations while I pretended to watch TV. I started going to therapy, something I never thought I needed before. Talking about her, the lies, the betrayals, the constant gaslighting, was brutal. But it helped. I realized something important. The pain wasn't just from her cheating. It was from the person she pretended to be. The version of her that I fell in love with and spent years trying to build a life around. That person never existed. and that hurt more than anything else. But therapy helped me see my own role, too. How I ignored the red flags, how I stayed silent when I felt suspicious, how I blamed myself for things out of my control. I was not responsible for her choices. That was the hardest lesson to learn. At some point, I looked at myself in the mirror and didn't hate the guy staring back. I even started dreaming about dating again, which felt like a cruel joke, but also a little hopeful. I won't lie, though, I still get angry. Sometimes bitter, sometimes lonely. But I'm learning to sit with those feelings without letting them own me. And that's progress. After the dust settled, I had to figure out what comes next. The divorce paperwork was the easy part. Well, easier than everything else, at least. But rebuilding my life felt like trying to assemble a jigsaw puzzle with half the pieces missing. I quit drinking for a while. Needed clarity. Started running again. Alone, no distractions. The early mornings helped clear my head. I reconnected with old friends, people I'd neglected during the perfect marriage act. They didn't ask for explanations, just showed up. Work became my anchor. I focused on growing my career, but not for her or anyone else, for me. And somewhere in all that, I learned to trust myself again. Trust that I could recognize red flags. Trust that I could set boundaries. Trust that I deserved honesty and respect. It wasn't easy. Some nights, I still caught myself spiraling, wondering if I missed something or if I could have saved us. But then I remind myself, I didn't cause the betrayal. I didn't deserve it. And that's enough. If you're reading this and feeling like I did, lost, betrayed, unsure, here's what I want you to know. Trust your gut. Those little doubts. Don't ignore them. They're often louder than the lies people tell. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Not in a confrontational way, but with genuine curiosity. Sometimes the answers hurt, but silence hurts more. Protect your peace. If someone's repeatedly breaking your trust, it's okay to walk away, even if your heart feels like it's breaking. Therapy isn't just for crazy people. It's a tool. Use it. You don't have to go through this alone. Lean on your friends and family. They might surprise you with support, especially when you feel like no one will understand. You deserve honesty and respect. No excuses. Most importantly, don't let someone else's lies define your worth. I was a fool for trusting a woman who wasn't honest, but I refused to let her betrayals break me. I'm still healing, but every day, I'm a little stronger. And someday, maybe I'll find someone who deserves that trust, and I'll give it freely. Looking back, I realize how easy it is to get caught up in the version of someone you want them to be instead of who they actually are. Lena wasn't the woman I married. She was a character she created, a constant act to hide the truth. I spent so much time justifying things I shouldn't have ignored, excusing behavior that screamed for answers. But that's the trap of loving someone who lies. You want to believe it's all a mistake or a rough patch. You want to believe in the future you imagine together. Here's the brutal truth. Sometimes the person you love is a stranger. And sometimes, the hardest thing to do is let them go. I'm still working on forgiveness. Not for her, but for myself. For trusting too much, for doubting my own instincts, for giving so much to a relationship that wasn't real. It's a messy, painful process, but it's necessary. If you're in the middle of something like this, don't lose hope. You will heal. You will grow. And one day, you'll look back and realize you survived something that once felt impossible. To anyone out there dealing with betrayal, lies, or heartbreak, know this. You are not alone. Your pain is valid. Your feelings matter. Don't rush your healing. Don't settle for less than you deserve. And don't ever let someone else's deception make you doubt your own worth. I'm still learning to trust again, but I'm hopeful. Hopeful that real love, honest, messy, imperfect love, is still out there. And when it comes, I'll be ready. For now, I'm focused on me. On building a life I can be proud of, on friendships that nourish me, and on dreams that don't rely on anyone else's lies. Thank you for reading my story. It wasn't easy to share, but if it helps even one person feel less alone or gives someone the courage to walk away from their own toxic situation, then it's worth it. Stay strong, trust yourself, and don't be afraid to start over.